José Youngs here with Sports Illustrated MMA and FanSided MMA, standing next to James Lynch here on the red carpet of the UFC Hall of Fame ceremony ahead of the TUF finale and UFC 226 this weekend. The TUF finale weigh-ins just wrapped. We'll talk about that in a second, but Ronda Rousey going to the Hall of Fame. I mean, to say well-deserved is an understatement.
Yeah, just what she did for women's mixed martial arts. You know, MMA fans, usually in their conscience, it's how you did in your last fight, but really we have to look at the wins that she did have and highlight real fashion and what she was able to do to, you know, essentially bring women's mixed martial arts to the forefront and in the UFC, and just what she's been able to do, not just in the hardcore bubble, but to go mainstream outside of the sphere. And the fact that, you know, she was so successful in the UFC is why she's in WWE right now, I think, and it's well-deserved.
Do you think it was too soon? A lot of people said there wasn't enough time between her last fight. Like baseball, you got 5 years.
Yeah.
Do you think there should have been a little bit longer of a wait? Like Matt Serra's going in. He's been retired for 10 years, maybe?
I think it's pretty evident she's not coming back. So I think if that's the case, there's no rush to, well, I mean, I don't think there's any issue in putting her in now. I don't have a problem with it.
And moving on to the actual fights, like I said, we just wrapped up the TUF finale weigh-ins. Outside of the main event and the two TUF finale tournament finales, which fight are you most looking forward to? Because you have probably interviewed more of these guys than most people here.
Yeah, so if we're looking at the TUF finale, I think a fight that's kind of flying under the radar is the middleweight fight between Gerald Meerschaert and Oscar Piechota. Just two really tough guys in that division, and two guys that I think really need to make a statement here and really sort of propel themselves up the division and look to, you know, make a name for themselves at 185.
And out of the two tournament finals, which one are you most looking forward to?
I mean, come on, Jose. I'm Canadian. Yeah. I mean, biased here, but
see, that was a softball right there.
Yeah, that was. The Brad Katona and Jay fight is going to be fantastic. I just think the fact that I've said this before, that Katona has had so much success at featherweight, a weight class up, is just remarkable. And you know, he's a young guy, trains at SBG. There's a lot of intrigue there if he wins this fight. And there hasn't been a Canadian to win an Ultimate Fighter that wasn't on a Tough Nation season, so he could make some history tomorrow night as well.
And as a New England guy, I'm going to have to go with the Joe Giannetti fight. I mean,
I
mean, he's looked spectacular. I will pick him to win, but that's 50-50 in my book. But moving on to the main event, Israel Adesanya, Brad Tavares. I mean, both of them said that their plan was to steal the spotlight from this weekend because of all the fights happening the day after. They want this, like last year, we had Gaethje, Michael Johnson the day before. No one remembers any of the fights besides that fight from last year.
That's true.
Do you think they have the ability to match it this year with such a stacked card the day after?
I do. I really do. I think the UFC realizes that. You have Adesanya, who's had 2 fights in the UFC. He's in a main event on International Fight Week. That says a lot. I think they're really putting their eggs in this basket. And Brad Tavares is no slouch. I mean, he's been in the UFC since 2011. He's on a bit of a winning streak right now. Defeated some guys where he was an underdog. I mean, this time last year, he was an underdog against Elias Theodorou. He beat Elias Theodorou. He just beat Krzysztof Jotko. I mean, people counting out Brad Tavares, I don't get it, but we're going to know how good Israel Adesanya is tomorrow night as far as his ceiling in the UFC.
Who do you have? Izzy, Brad Tavares?
I'm going Brad Tavares. He's the underdog right now. I like the underdog pick. Yeah. I think you can't ignore his experience in the UFC. I know Israel has that experience in kickboxing and in Glory, but I think Brad is really underrated, and I think he'll show that in this fight.
And I'll play devil's advocate. Even I won't say who I think will win. I'll just play devil's advocate. I'll say Izzy, just because Brad, every time I feel like he strings these wins together, he hits Yoel Romero. He hits Robert Whittaker. And these guys weren't champions yet. Yeah. They were on this, like, they're going to give him Brad Tavares. They beat Brad Tavares. That's the next level. I think Izzy's going to do the same thing. He's clearly taller. I don't know about his wrestling. I'm sure Brad Tavares will test it, but I think Izzy wins decision. Everyone's going to say knockout. I think 5-minute rounds. He's fought a million times in kickboxing. I'll say Israel Adesanya. Moving on to UFC 226, prelims. Which fight are you most looking forward to?
Oh, wow. There's so many good ones. You know, I really actually like the Jakar Close and Lando Venata fight. It's an interesting matchup. Venata more of a striker, Close a really good wrestler. And both guys have lost to David Tamer in the UFC. So how will they adjust, you know, heading into this fight? It'll be very interesting. But I think we're talking about two lightweights who really, again, like I mentioned in the Gerald Meerschaert and Piechota fight, I think these are two guys who really need to make a statement here on International Fight Week and propel up the lightweight division.
And outside of we were supposed to have 2 title fights. Right. Max Holloway, Brian Ortega obviously fell apart. But looking at that undercard, I mean, we got Rob Font versus Rafael Assunção. We got Paulo Costa versus Uriah Hall. I mean, this fight card is absolutely stacked with really important fights. Do you think they're getting enough attention, or do you think they're just you're happy they're on this card because they're going to get the shine from those top 2 fights?
The latter. I think these are good matchups. I think the focus of the card. I mean, top to bottom, we're talking about some really good fights. Yeah. And the Holloway fight being off, I'm disappointed. I think all of us are. But really, this card's so good that I mean, there's a lot I'm looking forward to tomorrow, just even outside of that fight being off.
Not to mention Gokhan Saki's on this card.
Of course, Khalil Rountree. Yeah.
Out of the prelims, who do you think has the best chance of taking home a post-fight bonus?
Ooh, that's interesting. You know what? I'll go. It's tough to say. I know exactly. As you can see, I'm a little bit speechless here. You know what? I'm going to go an upset here. I'm going to go Emily Whitmire taking care of business against Jamie Moyle.
First fight on the night, taking home a post-fight bonus.
Yeah, I think she can get the finish here. I know I'm going out on a limb here, but I really feel like she's being underrated here. A lot of her issues have been mental, and I think if she's on her game, she can take out Jamie Moyle.
And we had an interview with her earlier today. She had an absolutely insane story of how she got into MMA. You could check it out on our YouTube page. But moving on to the main card, I mean, this is, even without the title fight, this is an unbelievable main card.
Oh, absolutely. And you start at the main event, you go your way down. Just some really, I mean, Gokhan Saki and Khalil Rountree, like, that is a treat for any fight fan at this point. Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say other than there's some really back and forth fights. And I mean, the main event, I'm picking Stipe, but man, you never know with Daniel Cormier. He is proven once again always to, if it's not John Jones, he's looking great.
Now we're going to do a little bit of rapid fire before we get to the main event. Mike Perry, Paul Felder.
I'm going. Oh, that's a tough one. I'm going Paul Felder. I think he pulls it off.
Francis, Derek Lewis.
I'm going Francis.
Now we're going to go to the main event. Yeah. We're going to put you on the spot. You can explain yourself.
Yeah.
Do you think it goes 5 rounds?
I do, and I think Stipe gets the win.
Stipe. So I do think DC is going to win. Why do you think Stipe is going to win?
I just think he's a really mobile heavyweight. I think DC. I don't see him out wrestling Stipe. I think Stipe is going to be more active. He's a really fast guy for that division, and I think a lot of guys have had trouble dealing with his speed and cardio as well. I mean, that was the thing in the Ngannou fight. Ngannou, once he wasn't able to knock out Stipe, he was in trouble. I'm not saying DC will do that, but clearly I think we've seen that Stipe can go 5 rounds and. He continues to be underrated in fights, and I think he's going to show again why he's the best heavyweight we've ever seen.
And I forgot one fight, Chiesa Pettis.
Yeah, another tough one. I'm going to go Chiesa in this fight. I think he gets it done. Yeah, I do. I know he's had the layoff. I've just been more impressed with him in his recent outings. I know Pettis has fought some tough competition, but I've been more impressed with Chiesa at this point than Pettis. And Pettis has had some injuries too. So
I do think Daniel Cormier is going to win. I don't think Stipe's ever really faced a wrestler in
no,
MMA. I mean, the most high caliber wrestler he's ever faced is Roy Nelson, you would say? I mean, over him, K1 champion, like Struve, obviously not a wrestler. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did finish Stipe, but it was still a good fight. Then you had Francis, absolutely not a wrestler. JDS, absolutely not a wrestler. Verdum, grappler, but has been obviously knocking people out on the feet, stopped Kane with the body kicks and everything. I do think DC is going to win. I will say decision 2, but I think this is the fight of the night for sure.
For sure. I think if you're looking at a fight that could go the distance and could be fight of the night, it's definitely this fight. But like I said, as far as a finish, I think there could be one in the prelims.
And so I'm picking DC. He's picking Stipe. Yeah. José Youngs, James Lynch. You can catch all of our content on the YouTube page. We'll be backstage. Alex is behind the camera. She'll be posting videos all night long. Stay tuned. Wrap. All right, cool. That was good.
Yeah.
I think.